All right. Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
We are getting started. Today, I'm sitting down with the one, the only Gabriel Picolo. How are you,
Hey
Gabe?
there.
All right, let's wait for a couple people to filter in.
Yeah, I wonder if I should post something on my Instagram. Well,
You can post whatever you please. Okay. Hello, hello. Someone was saying before that they stayed up for 2 a.m. for this. I am so sorry for the late hour.
well, yeah. It's not that late in Brazil, at least. Like it's like 10 p.m. here.
Yeah, you're 1 hour ahead of me because we're on East Coast time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Your room is so aesthetically pleasing. Thank you. So I'm not doing this while fasting. The reason we're doing such a late hour is because I wanted to eat first and then be able to do this stuff. 3 a.m. in Germany. Thank you so much for joining us, Germany. We even have my cat hanging out here with us. She's just off frame in the corner somewhere. Let me see if I can get her in frame.
Oh yeah, it's super late for people in Europe, right?
Yeah, it's pretty damn late. Oh, she doesn't want to sit on the street. That's fine. 4:30 in Kuwait. Hello, Kuwait. 5 a.m. in Dubai. Oh my gosh, y'all are crazy. Go to bed. This is a bad idea. All right, it is 9:30, so let's kick this off right. Let's kick this off properly. You guys may know Piccolo for his fantastic work on Teen Titans, the upcoming graphic novel for Raven, the record-breaking Icarus and the Sun campaign that also broke Indiegogo. I'm not gonna forget that. That was so goddamn funny. What else are you? King of the Seven Kingdoms, Master of the Realm in the
Ah!
first one. How are you doing,
No, yeah,
Piccolo?
right now it's mostly the Teen Titans stuff and Icarus and the Sun, which are
Yeah.
both
Say that one more time.
they're both coming up, like both the Icarus and the Sun novel, and then Raven is dropping this summer.
This summer. Do you have an exact date for that?
Yeah, Raven's dropping it July 2nd.
Okay, and
Uh,
Icarus in the
in
Sun?
US. Icarus and the Sun is coming out like late December. I don't have like a specific date yet because I'm still working on the book, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the date we established on the campaign. So.
That's fantastic. I hope shipping and everything goes really well for you because crowdfunding fulfillment is genuinely a nightmare. So, but I'm so
Yeah,
glad to hear it.
it's awesome because Icarus and the Sun's like there's a whole lot of artistic freedom because the project's like online and people want to see exactly what I want to do with the story. So that's pretty cool about this project.
How do you like the difference between working on Raven and working on Icarus in the Sun? Because, like, one, you're your own boss.
Yeah.
And in the other one, you're reporting to editors, a writer, a larger creative team. Like, what do you think you prefer?
In a way, I'm so glad that I got to work on Raven first
Mm-hmm.
because it gave me a lot of experience. Because it can be crazy to manage so many to have so many roles to do when you're doing your own graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing layouts and pages and like kind of editing in a way. Like I have some friend helping me
Mm-hmm.
with editing, but
I feel like every
you're very much
artist.
on your own, so it's a little bit scary. I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't do Raven first, I think.
Mm-hmm. I feel like
Because
every artist has their own editing team among their friends.
what? Sorry.
I said every artist has their own like editing
Oh yeah,
team among their friends. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, yes.
You have like a group chat and you're like, please tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good.
Yeah, I live like I always say send a work in progress and stuff for my friends to
Hmm.
critique and have like a second or third pair of eyes to look at my stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty encouraging to hear from them.
I have like two groups of friends. I have the non-artist group that I like to
Oh,
bully, and then I have like the more artist group. But sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hear what artists have to say because they'll be like, the composition's nice. I'm like, shut up, man, just critique me. And then my non-artist friends will be like, I don't get it, and I'm like, thank you for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, that's super smart actually. Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, you're not talking to other artists? I mean, I'm talking to an artist now, but like your main audience is gonna be like the average person. They're not like visually trained to get all that stuff.
Yeah, they just feel it's this is wrong and this is right. Like this is cool, this is not. So yeah, I totally get it.
Do you ever feel like being an artist has like ruined your taste for art?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. For pretty much everything entertainment related, because you start to see through stuff that you shouldn't, and it kind of ruins.
I feel like we brought this up once before when we did the live stream in Chicago. We got a chance to talk about it. It's like the magic in the art. And it's like how being in the industry or being an artist, you kind of lose some of that magic. Like you want to be deceived. You don't want to be able to figure it out.
I actually have to make an extra effort to be in that position again. When I'm consuming media and consuming stuff in general, like shows or comics. Like I try not to see through as an artist. Like just try to enjoy it.
I also feel like it makes you a better artist to be able to turn off your brain and to become like an audience member. So that way, when you look at your work a second time, you can be like, okay, this is what the average person's going to see. This isn't... Yeah. I also feel like being in such a larger artist community on social media and on Twitter, because like that's how we ended up knowing each other, was through social media. You end up kind of making work that you feel like will be cool for other artists. Maybe not necessarily... How do you feel about that?
I actually stopped doing that. Like, consciously stopped doing that.
Okay.
But I totally know what you're saying because I was in this mindset before.
So, for me personally, I felt like I wasn't making art for other artists, but I was definitely making art that was like only worked for a specific niche community that was online. Or I would only make work that I knew would look good when I posted it. And that was kind of like affecting my progress.
Okay, I see.
I feel like, so it's like on one hand, you have to be a good audience member, and you have to be a good artist, and you have to be good at social media. And it's like you have to do all of that without stopping yourself from growing. And I'm just like, why did we do this?
And it's a lot to take in.
And you personally, you went through all the portfolio reviews, because I just saw someone mention in the chat about the portfolio reviews. So a ton of you guys submitted your work, and we thank you so much for doing that. There was so much great work to go through.
Yeah, there was lots of them, lots of really good stuff. Like it was really, really tough to pick up.
So we ended up focusing on 3 people. Just to kind of like get variety. We didn't pick them because we thought, one was better, one was worse, or any of that. Just like 3 very different people at very different stages, and kind of use them to open up the discussion for like wider topics. So don't feel bad if we didn't choose you, and it doesn't mean that we didn't like your work or that we did like someone else's work more. It's just it made for better conversation, and we will get to that soon, I think. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What can you tell everyone about Squire, about your graphic novel?
About Squire? I actually got to... Squire is my young adult graphic novel that's coming out with HarperCollins in fall 2021, which doesn't sound like a real year right now. And actually today was the very first day I got to sit down and read the entire script, because we passed it in... Yeah, we passed it in about a week ago, and we got our first editor's notes, and I hadn't seen the full script yet. So I feel like I stepped away from the work long enough that when I went back to read it, I kind of forgot my expectations for it.
Oh, so that's great.
It was so exciting.
Fresh new eyes on it, right?
Yeah, it was really fresh and really exciting. And I was reading through it, I was like, damn, this is good. Who made up this stuff?
I thought... You posted some stuff on Twitter, and that was like that seems like it's the funniest script I've ever seen.
Yeah. So me and Nadia, my co-writer, we have a very unconventional relationship. So normally when you're in comics, you have like the writer, and the writer sends things to the artist, and the artist just executes it. They don't normally have a large say in the writing process. Like obviously, a good writer will leave room for the artist to, you know, kind of do something that might look better. You know, you could play around with the panel layout a little bit, but in general, that's the script. Me and Nadia, we very much worked together to develop the story, which was really exciting, and it was a ton of fun. So we were collaborators on that end. But she's obviously a proper writer, and I am not. So she got to develop the whole script. So I had to do none of the hard work, which was really great. So it's like I gave her the ingredients, or we like found the ingredients together, and she cooked this delicious, self-indulgent meal that had girls with swords in it. So that truly was a joy. And the kind of notes that she leaves me are like specific to me. Like she'll find references for me. She'll like reference animes that we've both watched. And it's very clearly written for me to execute. And I appreciate that. So awesome. It's such a good relationship to have, and I really I'm so privileged to be working with a creator that I click with that way.
Oh, that's so much cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see this book.
I can't wait to see this book. I still have to fucking draw it, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so do you want to start the portfolio review stuff, or do you want to get some questions from the chat, or what's up?
Let's get some questions. Yep.
Ooh, okay. So if you guys have questions in the chat for either me or Picolo or both of us, send them now or forever hold your peace. Well, not forever. Oh, I'm going to get the first question out of the way. Yes, we are uploading this to YouTube afterwards. So if you want to tune in at another time, and for you German people and your people from Dubai, please go to bed soon. You won't, you don't have to stick around for the whole thing. I want you to sleep. What did you study? Picolo, what did you study?
I studied international relationships in college, but I'm actually a dropout, so I quit the course, and I did have the course and I quit.
Is this not an international relationship?
I don't know. It's much more boring stuff, kind of like teaching you to be a diplomat or work on a
I feel like you're a whole ass ambassador, man. I don't know. You're out here representing Brazil.
It's interesting, but kind of boring. But in a way, prepared me for because I was working at a hostel, and it kind of it was, let's say, international relationships in a way, because I got to meet a lot of travelers and stuff. And I quit college, but I was still working as a receptionist. And I think that experience changed me a lot more than the university.
Oh, really? Way. Yeah. No, yeah. I definitely feel that. I feel like the weird odd jobs that I had in school were more important than my well, I wouldn't say more important, but they gave me the experience I needed to be able to pull off all of this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel about being this time that I was a receptionist, because it was like the full hostel experience, because I was both living there and working there. So.
Oh wow! So you've always had the worst work-life balance. It's always been bad for you.
Yeah, always messed up, because that was my first job. So it's
okay. So my first real job, I was a librarian assistant in the College of Art and Design library at my university. So it was my job to help people research, help professors find things for their classes, help people find references. And I was like I was paid to read comics all day. It was awesome.
Was it like 9 to 5, or just stay there for like how long you wanted?
No, so I had like actual shifts that I would do in between my classes. So it was on campus. So I would go to class, and then I would go to the library to work, and then go and I'd like help the same professors who I just saw, and then go to their class afterwards. So what was really cool is that I ended up developing a pretty good relationship with my professors, and some of them like didn't know that I wasn't a student. So I would just like go into the faculty lounge and use their kitchen, and I would like, don't worry about it, hi. So I like got my privileges that way. But what ended up helping me a ton was I ended up learning like good research skills. Like now I can research any type of reference I need for my illustration work, and it works out fine. I saw someone put in the chat recently how old we both are. So I'm 23. How old are you?
25.
Yeah. So we're on the younger end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Let me peek at the chat here and see. Do you have the chat on the side?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So why don't you read off some other questions?
One sec.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it updated. I lost everything. Sorry.
It's okay. Hold up. Let me open it up on my app and see what everybody is up to.
Okay, so this is a good one.
Okay.
How did you go about getting your foot in the door when it comes to comics, doing covers?
Doing covers. I don't do a ton of covers.
I don't do a lot of covers too. Like right now, I'm actually working on a cover,
Uh-huh.
but that's pretty much an exception. Like I'm not super seasoned in doing cover art.
Someone over here, they said, what advice do you have for a person who changed their major from chemistry to graphic design animation with little to no experience in art? That was me. I went into psychology and I was like, screw that. I can't do it. I can't talk to crying people. I'm too empathetic. Like, I was so stressed out over it. I took one art class for fun. I haven't been drawing for very long. I started drawing when I was like 17. So I'm kind of new to the game. I just plugged in a ton of hours into it, and I was doing like work in art. I was like doing a cartoonist work for a website while I was a psychology major, and I switched out the second semester, so I didn't last very long. My point is, though, it is possible. People are out there doing it. There's no such thing as too late. You'll be fine. All right. Next question.
Sarah, where does your love of sword girls stem from?
I was 5 years old.
Ah!
And I watched Disney's Mulan. No, for real. I actually know the exact first time I drew a girl with a sword, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. I was in a class when I was an illustration major in college. I was in my second year. I was in a class called Sequential Art, which is a very simple way of saying like art that goes in a sequence. So that could be comics, that can be any type of graphic novel, anything that's like deals with multiples. And so one of our assignments was like draw 13 of a specific topic that would be like included in a magazine. It's something called spot illustrations. So spot illustrations are these tiny little things that are scattered throughout a magazine to make the essays more interesting. And so I drew these two little characters. There's these very scratchy characters. It was like a little girl with like bangs over her eyes carrying a sword, and she was like helping out this big giant knight. Think like Arya and the Hound kind of way.
You're awakening, right?
Yeah, and for me, I like
illustration.
Yeah, ever since then, I've always been obsessed with the big, small characters paired together. And I've always been like obsessed with the idea of like taking this tiny person and adding this big, deadly weapon to it, like always subverting expectations. I always want to play with shape and play with size and play with expectation.
And this is a question for me. What's your JRPG background? Because I feel so much like I feel this Final Fantasy energy out of your artwork.
Yes.
First time that
For me, I grew up playing Final Fantasy, and I grew up playing Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Anime, are you kidding me? Like Inuyasha was like one of my first animes. Yeah. Big dude with a sword, kick-ass girls. Like it's where it's at, man. It's so good. Anime and manga and all of that, like that is so important to the kind of ideas I come up with. There's no escaping it.
There's a question here. Favorite process in art: sketching, line work, or coloring? What's yours?
Line art.
Line art? Oh, really?
Yeah. Wait,
I hate it.
Really?
I love sketching. There's like a lot of energy, a lot of playful stuff to do, and then there's the boring part of like lining, and then coloring, which is a little bit of a random process for me, but it kind of worked out in the end. But I love sketching so much. So on my process, I kind of gave up on inking in a way. The way that I do stuff, I just clean up the sketch as much as I can, but I try not to lose that energy that my sketch has. Like I try not to jump on, how do you say, like formal straight inking.
Yeah.
Because I think it ruins my stuff. So I just try to make my sketches the cleanest as they can get, so I can move on to coloring. Yeah.
So you want to skip that stage entirely?
Exactly.
For me,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I want to skip the sketching stage entirely. Like for me, I do all of my problem solving in thumbnails. So my sketches, my real sketches that are just for me, I don't do fully fleshed out sketches unless I'm doing it for a client. My real sketches look like stick figures. Like for me, I'm really focused on composition when I draw. I want to know where things are, how the different story elements play out, what are the big shapes. And then from there, I will start building the actual details. And I want to just like get to it. I just want to figure it out already. So for me, especially right now, working in comics, it's really hard because I have to send those pages to an editor to approve them, and I can't go too far into it because they still have to give me feedback. So I feel like I'm adding more work to myself by having that middle stage. Yeah, but it's the reality of like, well, I'm not reporting to myself. I have to report to somebody else. Biggest piece of advice for making comics. Find a way to love it. It's too hard if you don't like it.
Yeah, and that advice I heard from I think it was Irene Co. That you have to find some middle ground of your own quality of your work, because you can't get every page to look perfect. So you gotta find
the person who said you can't work at your 100%, your 60% has to be perfect.
Exactly. The first time I heard that was from Irene Co. She was working at Cora graphic novel when she
okay.
Yeah, and it's pretty much that, like you can work 100% every time because it's a lot of pages, it's a lot of drawings, a lot of work, so you gotta find a middle ground because your speed gonna be on point for the project to work.
I also think when you're giving yourself 100% on every single page, which first of all is like unreasonable, we know that, but also it's harder to keep a consistent style.
Exactly.
Because you're making a fully polished illustration, and that is just a whole different mindset than this character needs to look the same throughout all these different images. So I see, especially in webcomics, there's some really, really impressive people out there who are making full-on painted pages, and they're nuts and they're beautiful, but like, what are you doing to yourself? It's so much. Like, I'm tired looking at those pages. It's so much. There's some people, brilliant work on like webtoons and some of the other platforms for webcomics, and I'm just like, how do you do this week to week? Like, one, of course you must clearly love your job, but wow, the physical toll it takes on you must be insane.
Yeah.
What else do we have in the chat there?
Picolo come to Brazil. As a Brazilian, everyone always says that on the internet.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on promoting your art on social media?
I feel like we're gonna get to that during portfolio reviews, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So stick around. Spoiler alert.
What's the most unexpected thing you discovered about working in comics?
How long it takes.
How long it takes? That's pretty good. Yeah. Because like I was working on Raven last year, and it's 100 pages something book, and it's
here.
Yeah, you have it, right?
Yeah. Let me see. I just dropped all of my books, but whatever. If you hear a loud thump, that's half my books falling. But yeah, I got it here. What's up? So,
and it's like it's 100 pages book, but it's a really quick read. So like my friend Isadora, she was reading Raven at the airport when we were flying from Los Angeles to Seattle for Emerald City. And it was like such a quick read. Like she read it in 20-30 minutes something, and it's something that I put a year of work into. I'm not saying that's bad. That's not the point.
No, that's the worst feeling in the like. You can't help but think about it.
Yeah, it took so long to draw those pages, you know, and it's quickly.
And it's like each page, you know, some pages might take you 10 hours, some pages might take you longer, you know, depending on your process, and it's just like people glance over it, you know.
Glance over it.
It is, for me, I've accepted I'm spending the next 2 years, because also there's not just the drawing thing, it's the whole process of publishing. It takes a really long time for it to hit
Yeah.
your shelf. So by the time, a book is on the shelf and it's already had pre-orders and anything, the artist and the writers, they've been done with it for like a year. That's what a lot of people don't realize. And for me, it's just like knowing that 2 years of work, 3 years of work is just going to be done in 2 hours and put aside, if people even get through the whole book. What have we done? That's the theme of the night. What have we done? Someone said hello from ECCC. Why do they have such stupid names for conventions, man? ECCCCCC.
There's a good one here. I don't know if you want to answer that on portfolios, but how does one make original characters more marketable on social media?
I think that's the wrong approach.
What? Sorry?
I think that's the wrong approach to think about.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like this word marketable is not. It's not the word here. I would say you want to make your characters appealing, or you want to make them. You want to reach more people with your characters. I think that's.
I think that's ultimately what you're trying to say. If you create a character with it being like, this is what all the kids are into, like sometimes you'll get a little bit of traction, but ultimately if you're just chasing the next art fad or the next art meme or something, like remember when everyone was drawing Bowsette? Like doing something like that, doing fan art, it'll get you the traction and the attention you need in the moment, but it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable because it's really easy to get people to notice you for a while, for a quick moment, for like an illustration, a post that maybe blew up, but it's really hard to keep people's attention. So that's why you gotta be prepared to show people what you're really capable of, what you really love, who you really are. Like as an illustrator, like with your artistic voice comes like after you get people's attention. So.
I think that's a really valid point. It's like you want to grab their attention, and I think that's what fan art tends to do for people, but then you have to have a reason to keep them there and to keep them paying attention and supporting you. It's very easy to get retweets. It's very hard to keep people to follow you back or to stay engaged in your work or support you at an artist alley.
Or support you. Yeah, it's like, I think it's 3 stages. Like getting retweets, it's super easy. Then getting people to follow you is a little bit harder, and then getting people to actually support you, to buy your stuff, to buy your art, it's the final stage. That's super
And then you have like the super fans who not only will they like buy your stuff, but they will like promote it so hardcore for you, and they will be the publicists that even your own publicist can't be, and they'll be the ones like advocating on your behalf. And when you can like get that special connection, and it doesn't even need to be a large community, if you can get it with just like a really niche, strong community, like you've struck gold. There's so many artists out there, they're thriving because they just have that special connection with their community.
Exactly.
And I think that's really important. I'm happy we got to talk about that. All right. Do you want to do the portfolio reviews now? Because I feel like now we're saying like, we'll just do it later.
Yeah, we're getting in what we were going to talk about anyway, so let's move.
All right, so in that case, let's get into it. So again, it was Picolo who ended up picking from the people who replied on Twitter. Thank you so much for submitting your work. And we mentioned it before, there were so many fantastic submissions, and the main reason we brought people on was because we wanted to get variety in work and be able to talk about a lot of different things. So it's not that we like someone's work more or less, we just wanted to have variety. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to switch over so that, well, we don't want to see your face. Let me put that down. Okay. So we have, I think, the first person up here. All right. Oh, Picolo, we lost you. Where'd you go? Okay, there we go. Let me see here. So Picolo, we're not going to be able to see you on screen for some reason because I messed up on the camera capture, but that's fine.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Okay, so you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have this first person here whose Brakustar on Instagram. And why'd you pick this person out, first off?
Okay, first off, I remember I was just browsing Instagram and then I found this one image, this character designs, and I thought they were so funny. I thought they were so interesting. I saved the picture and then I didn't like open the Instagram of whoever did it. And then I saw this person on a thread on your tweet, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's work is really, really nice. Like he says he does a character design, which I think it's obviously his strongest attribute.
Some really, really fantastic stuff here. I'm genuinely blown away right now.
Right, like
this is so much fun. Just I'm gonna click through just like fantastic shapes and energy and attitude. And
like different characters, like there's no repetition going on. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, and at the same time, even though he's working in different styles, sorry, not different styles, he's working on different characters, you feel like they kind of live in the same universe.
Yeah, because the style is consistent, right?
And not just that, it feels like they're all exaggerated to the same degree. Like it's not one character is really realistic and the other character is like hyper stylized and another one is more anime style. Like they feel really consistent all the way through. Like I feel like if I gave this guy, oh, so right there we have the Night King from Game of Thrones. Like you give him original artwork and you give him fan art and you know what kind of style he's going to produce, and I think that's really fantastic. Because when you're hired as an illustrator, you kind of have to be trusted to execute the work the way that you've shown your other work.
Yeah, I want to see what can I expect from this person, right?
You want to be predictable in a sense.
Yeah.
So I can see like some variation in the other work. Like this is a little bit different style, less colorful, a little bit more exaggerated, but it still feels in the same like, kind of thing.
And I picked this guy because he linked his Instagram profile. So Instagram is a social media that I know pretty much.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How do you think he works when you're just seeing his grid?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I picked this guy. So I really liked how lately his Instagram is much more curated in a way that he's being more selective of what he posts. Because if you go down a little bit, there's much more sketchy stuff, which is cool. Like if you want to post this kind of stuff, it's totally valid.
I see it here.
But it's not as interesting for other people. Like it's
like
not
work like
not
this
that would generate a following. Like the regular guy on Instagram, because this is Instagram, it's like casual people looking at pretty drawings, pretty stuff, right? So you want to get their attention, and sketches are usually much more interesting for other people who are into art, like for other artists. So.
And it's just not the level of polish that I'm seeing on the other work. For example, when I scroll down here, this is because I had a chance to flip through this before we started the stream. This is one of my favorite images. And I don't see anything else like it on the Instagram. So I wouldn't expect him to produce work that way. But at the same time, it's like, this is what pulled me in personally. But for me...
Really? Cool.
Sorry?
That's cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So for me, like when I was flipping through aimlessly, like that's what caught my eye. But I might have a bias for yellow. We've established that.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then you have like this series of sketches and studies, which is interesting, but it's not the same as seeing like a batch like this.
Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to approach. Like, you gotta like have in mind what's the crowd that you're aiming your content to. So if you want to attract more people, you gotta like be more how do you say, what's the word? Sorry, sometimes English fails me.
It's all good. Take your time.
you gotta put out your most interesting stuff, and maybe create like a side blog or leave like your studies for like ArtStation or stories. Use your stories. I mean, that's what I do. I keep studies and not polished stuff on my stories, and then keep my feed just for the like the best work possible, so that it's very interesting for people to follow. And I got a really good response out of it.
For me,
So
what I also notice is that you have the main image, because you know how you can upload multiple images on Instagram. Have the main image be the final, and then
that's
afterwards
awesome.
maybe do the process.
That's awesome. Because then your feed will look pretty, but you still have your process. You're still showing people how you got there, if you're into that.
And on this person's post, when they replied, did they say what their professional goals were?
I think it was character design.
Okay. So I've done a handful of character design personally. I've done it for comics, I've done it for video games, and I've actually also done it for film. And one of the things that I think is really cool for doing all that stuff is, one, creating all the fun designs, but what they also want to see is design exploration. They want to see iterations, and they want to see your process. So I feel like, yeah, they want to see your train of thought. They want to know how you came to that conclusion. Because when you're working for a client and you're working as part of a much bigger pipeline, you have to, one, keep in mind the constraints that the people you're working with have to deal with. So for film, it would be, can I actually make this for my prop designer or whatever? For video games is, will my animator or will the person who has to sculpt it, will they be able to rig it afterwards? Can it function in the game? If you're working in animation, you have to make sure that, you know, it works with the rest of the show, and it matches what the animators can actually pull off. So while I think these collection of gestures and these characters kind of like interacting and doing different poses, well, I think they're really cool and interesting on their own, I don't think they're ready to be in a work pipeline. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed when I followed a lot of different people on DreamWorks and Netflix animation, they're always posting about jobs and tips and portfolio things. I personally haven't worked in that pipeline, but from the advice that I've heard from other professionals, they say you have to show the really boring, like, technical work. So you have to show that you can do the character turnarounds that, like, I pull my hair out doing. I hate doing turnarounds so much.
Big same. That's why I stopped taking jobs. That bores me a lot.
But someone has to do it, and it's usually the character designers have to do it. You have to be able to. So, like, seeing this stuff, it shows me that you know this character and you know the shapes really well. But can you do the boring work too? So this is a pretty good example where we pretty much have a 360 view of this character. But I think also that boring stuff, you keep it for your ArtStation, you keep it for your other portfolio. So they have an ArtStation here. Maybe I should click through. Let's see what they have on the ArtStation. Because some stuff works more for that side of things.
Yep.
And we can see the process more. So let me see if we can spot the process. So there's one. That's just such a fun illustration, first off. Yeah, so I'm not seeing a lot of process art. I think if you want to get into more character design, you got to show it.
ArtStation is more created than his Instagram profile. Like I think it should be the opposite, because the type of crowd that you're attracting on Instagram is much more casual than ArtStation.
Yeah, ArtStation is where you want to send them, send to like recruiters or send to other artists who might get a good word in for you. But there's no denying the technical skill. There's no denying the ideas and the energy. It's so good. Like the sense of lighting on such basic characters too is so good. And I would love to see more of like characters in context as well.
Yeah, same. Because I actually thought about that too. But like I know it doesn't exactly apply to character design, or maybe it does. I don't know. But I mean, love
it helps. It never hurts.
I love these characters like on some sort of interaction or scene, because they are so appealing, you know. Yeah,
there's so much fun, and for me, what really draws it for me is the poses, the attitude, the like where something as simple as like where the eyes are going. it tells a story. It implies that they're looking at something else. They're looking at something out of frame. And I think that's a trick that I personally use a lot. And I really enjoy it when other people use it as well. When you kind of get away with not showing what the story is, but implying it by having the character look away from the audience. I think it's so boring when the character.
I love that. I personally love that.
Yeah.
I this dread of making the character looking at the camera, because I think it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall, and it has to be a really good reason for that to happen, in my view. So
and
if
it's
you
like,
look at
where are they looking at? Where are they going?
Yeah, like if you look at my work, I rarely find the characters looking straight at the camera. So.
No, it's so much fun. No, I think I'm really glad that you like brought this portfolio. I think this was also a challenge for me to even be like, what is there to critique? This is so good.
Yeah, great thing. Go up his feet a little bit.
Huh?
Go up on his feet a little bit.
His feet up? Am I going?
His feet on Instagram.
Oh, okay, there we go. I thought you said feet.
No, feet.
Yeah. Okay.
See the pink drawing over there? It's an Anna Caddish. Draw this in your style. The pink one.
Pink.
Where? Oh, there's also like a pink background. You just scrolled it.
Pink background, pink background, pink background. Yes. Okay, found it. Is this it? Nana the shrimp?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, this is a really good approach. This is a really good post, because just like the fan art, just like the Night King, it's like one of these events, one of these sort of hashtags events that happens on Instagram every once in a while, and you want to get into these trends, let's say, because these is the sort of stuff that makes your work appear on feeds, like on new feeds. It's gonna show your work to people who are not going to see it, you know.
Oh, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. So you have this strong curated Instagram that's ready to go and looks polished and, displays all types of art, but you have to still participate in what other artists and other communities are in, because that's how Instagram will help you in promoting your own artwork.
Exactly.
For me, I don't engage in Instagram that much. It's not really where
you should.
I mean, I probably should, but I don't, because I'm mainly a Twitter person, and I'm not like looking for work anytime soon, because my book is gonna be keeping me really busy. But I'm trying to get better at it. One of the things that really boosted my Instagram was when I participated in the Draw Yourself in the Spider-Verse.
Cool.
When everybody was drawing themselves as Spider-Man, as part of the Into the Spider-Verse like movie hype, and that got my work in front of a lot of different people. Like I think I gained 1,000 followers overnight just from that one post.
Shit.
Yeah, which for me that's a third of the following I already have. That's not a small.
Totally game changer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's good stuff. That's stuff that you want to do.
And for me, I'm learning alongside this person, because Instagram isn't my thing. Like, tell me your secrets. All right, do you want to move on to the next person, or do you have any last closing stuff?
No, let's go to the next.
I should probably say one last thing. This bio is perfect. Like stating what you do, dropping your email, dropping where your other social media platforms in your portfolio. Like that's what your bio should
what
be.
You want to do.
Yeah. If you want to do like a personal Instagram where you just have like dumb memes and jokes and stuff, like that's fine. Just don't put it in the same space as your art. All right, let's move on to this person, Kylie Farr Illustration. Now, why did you pick this person?
Let me see. Hold on. Can you put it on the screen?
I think it's up. Is it up?
Not yet. Not for me. Hold on. Yeah, now it's up. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about on this portfolio is that I wanted to be a little bit more, and I'm not sure if that's the right word, but more thematically organized in a way.
No, I see what you mean. Yes. Trying to keep things consistent, not in technique, but in concept.
Exactly. Yes. And also thematically and on subject too, because there's sequential artwork, there's background artwork, there's illustration on the same page.
Yeah, it's very hard to navigate in terms of like, what does this person do? What does this person do?
Yeah. I wanted to see. I wish this different types of artwork were each on their own page
So let me see what
from.
happens when I click on it.
Okay.
So I get this open view. So then I can see the images one-on-one. And so there's two things I was an art director for a previous project, and there was two things that I looked at when I wanted to hire somebody. Is one, I wanted to see all of their artwork at once, and then I wanted to be able to see it.
I personally love it. I love that. I love that you just said that, because it's really important for me when I'm like trying to grasp what that person does, to see all their art at once, like on the same page. I like that very much.
But now that we're saying that, why doesn't that work in this setting?
Because there are too many different stuff put together. So.
And I should also say, this is actually much less a critique on what the art is right now. It's much more a critique on how you're displaying it. So half of getting your work out there and half of getting the attention of people to hire you for illustration work is, one, having the right work, but two, how do you present it? You need to be able to show that you understand what you're applying for enough to categorize your work on your own. You need to know what your strong suits are and be able to self-curate your own work. Because if you can't figure out what your strongest pieces are, the art director won't be able to either. Because
their attention span is like really limited. Like
they're just we got 50 submissions just for this quick thing. Like, we had to look at things instantly. So for here, how would you split up this person's work?
Sorry?
How would you split up this person's work? If you could recategorize their portfolio for them, how would you want it to be?
So very simply, separate stuff in illustration and character design, because there are some character designs that I've seen. Sequential art, because there are some comics.
I see some comics work. Yep.
And also backgrounds, because there are some backgrounds you can see over there, like the rooms.
Yep.
Because it's interesting stuff. Like I always love when people and this is something that kind of grew on me. I wasn't like this, but I love when people show that they can do backgrounds, that they can tackle perspective, because sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's complicated stuff, but it adds so much to your characters, you know?
Yeah. So we have this like range of character work, and we have this range of sequential pages, and then not really sure what's connected to what. So the other thing is, I feel like some of these pieces are part of the same project, but you've given me no indication that they're supposed to be. So I'm kind of left confused. And the last thing you want is the viewer to be confused.
And I think if they are all from the same project, show that, and like really put that together so people can see how you work on how you work different roles on the same project. That's really valuable skill.
Yeah, I feel like also another aspect to it is when you have sequential pages, you want to make sure that you put it in context. You want to be like, this is what this project is called, and this is what the story is about. Like, you give me, if I were to pick it up off the shelf, I can flip to the back of the book and I can read, like, you know, this is who published it, this is who wrote it, this is a summary of the thing, and then I can flip through it. But when I just see the pages on their own, I'm confused on what I'm supposed to be doing.
Unless they're like splash pages, because then it's okay. But I will say, if you're showing sequential art in its most strict sense, you gotta show at least 2 or 3 pages in sequence.
So it seems like they have the cover for their comic, and then they have 2 pages underneath it. But when I click on it, does it go sequentially? So yeah, when I click on it, I get another illustration. I'm not actually getting the pages I'm looking for.
I see.
Yeah, so I have 2 pages of comics here, and then I scroll down a bunch, and then I get another page of the comic there. And I'm not even sure if they're the same comic. So that's what leaves me at a loss. So your job is not just communicate within the illustration, but communicate that you know how your illustrations are supposed to function as a book, or as, you know, part of another client's magazine, or whatever that you're trying to do. So what did this person say that their professional goals were?
Hold on.
Because I know most of the people who replied, they said for cover art and sequential work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that's probably one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is their strongest piece here? What are they doing successfully?
I personally like the backgrounds.
The
pretty
backgrounds.
much. Yeah.
This is probably my favorite background.
Which one?
Right here, it's about to pull up because you're watching the stream, so you're going to be a couple seconds behind. Do you see that?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, for me, this is a really successful environment for a couple reasons.
Aesthetic thing. First of all, like it's good to look at. Like the colors are nice. Like the perspective. Like I'm not the biggest fan of 2-point perspective, but it's really successful in showing the whole room on this one.
And I feel like the perspective of the room, you feel like you're eye level. Like you feel like the viewer is placed inside the room.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that really works for a very cozy, homey sort of illustration like this. You want the viewer to feel like this could be their room. What would you add to this illustration, or what would you encourage the artist to consider if they were to return to this illustration?
I would say if you are doing 2-point perspective, open it up a little bit more so we can see the two walls that you decided to show. I would like to see everything that's on them, you know?
I feel like there's a lot of empty space, and for a reason that I don't quite understand. Empty space can be used really successfully, but it has to feel intentional. For me,
it has to be deliberate, right?
There's also, I feel like you have some nice textures in your other work that could have been incorporated really, really nicely here. Like that rug is just a big flat circle shape, and I feel like just adding the barest amount of texture, some suggestion of a different variation of light and shape and all that can really bring that room to life. And I also feel like, I wonder how it would look if it was cropped down. So if we cut out that big red circle, like this is how I personally would try to crop it down. So I feel like sometimes more space.
More your mind.
That's at least what I would suggest. How do you feel about that?
Because then the rug doesn't take like that much of like visual space, right?
And then I feel like the dog becomes the center character. Yeah, and this feels a little bit more. It feels more narratively focused, I should say. Yeah. So with all this stuff here, like the plant, the pillows, it's not really giving me any more information. I feel like everything I need to look at is right here. Yeah. So let's bounce out of here. Is there anything that pops out to you that you think is out of place?
I would get that lamp over there on the ceiling. You mean the illustration or other one?
The other portfolio in general.
Oh, on one portfolio. Sorry.
I keep forgetting you're a couple seconds behind.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm scrolling away and talking to myself at this point. All right, let me know when you see the same image.
Oh yeah, okay, now I see. Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything you see that feels
I think we covered everything. Like it's mostly the separating the thematically, and what kind of skills you want to present. I think that's it.
Yeah,
that's exactly why I picked this.
I think there's a lot of room for like strong narrative storytelling, and honestly, knowing that what your strong suits are in your own portfolio, really like sit down with your work and be like, well, I don't do this style anymore, so it doesn't need to be here, or I want to actually pursue more of this art, so should I even have it in anymore?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to see at the portfolio and kind of understand what kind of job that person wants to do.
And also I feel like it's when it comes to styles, like I'm a kind of person where I work in a lot of different styles. It's not easy for me to pick what kind of work I want to show. But one of my professors, she actually sat down with me and she tore apart my portfolio in my last year. I was 2 weeks before graduation and I had my work just ripped apart. And I mean literally ripped. Like I printed out all of my stuff, had it on a wall, and my professor would go and take things down from the wall and be like, you don't need this and you don't need this. And there were like pins flying everywhere. But I needed that. I was horrified, but I so deeply needed that. Like just because you produce work doesn't mean it needs to end up in your portfolio. And don't include things in your portfolio that one, you don't like to do, or you're not interested in working in. So I'd probably say, so if you have a focus, stick to your focus. If that means less work is in your portfolio, that's fine.
The one time my work was judged very harshly was when I applied for the DC workshop that they do every year. I applied in 2016. And like I was very green. I was very like not ready to do comics yet. And I got a super nice review. Like kind of like it was how can I put that? It was impactful for me at the time because it was my first time getting a review. But it put me on the right way, you know. Like it put me on the right stuff. Like it showed me what I needed to study back in the day.
Okay. Well, I mean, look at you now. So joke's on them. But sometimes it's true. Like you're not actually ready to have the job you're aiming for, and that's fine. You're just not ready yet. And maybe you wouldn't have been ready for that work yet either, because it's some pretty intense stuff to do a whole book or to do a whole monthly comic. And I bet it motivated you too. Okay, so let's go on to the next person. I'm going to switch over here. All right, let's see here. So why did you pick this person?
Mostly for the comics, for the comic work. Because if you browse the rest of her portfolio, it's really interesting stuff, like really nice colors, appealing characters. But I think we could give like some advice on the sequential art.
Okay, so you want to look at sequential art primarily right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I just want to say, to compare to the work that we looked at right before, so immediately we have a very clean, easy to navigate portfolio. All of the important information is right there, about and contact, resume. The artwork is separate from the comics because they know that they want to focus on a different, type of their creative work. So immediately, like, I'm drawn to focusing on the work only and not getting distracted by the other stuff. Yeah, so that simplicity really, really works in your favor. People are there to see the art, not to see your website design.
Yeah.
Okay, so right from the
covers and sequential art, like actually being sequential, like page to page. Yes. I appreciate that very much.
So over here we have, some dialogue, an action scene. I see like really strong character acting, good choice in colors.
I love the color choices. I love the color choices so much.
It feels very slice of life, which I think really works for this genre. Yeah. Not
very pleasing. I like very comfortable to read,
Yeah, I have no issue going from panel to panel. I have no confusion thinking, where am I supposed to look? I know what's up, and I feel like I can appreciate it on that standpoint. Now let's compare that to the second comic that they have here called Exposure. Seems like Exposure is in the same vein of slice of life, similar color choices, a really consistent style all the way through. And they put it aside, that this is not safe for work material. So, if someone's hiring them for a young adult book or something, they know that they work in different genres. All right. So from here, I'd probably say, and the lettering really reminds me of like the kind of comics I would see on like webtoons and what's the other one? It starts with a T. Taptastic or something.
Tapastic.
Yeah. So it's like people. This is gonna sound weird, but it's like when people see those kind of layouts, they want to know what they're signing up for. So I feel like you captured what audiences are already used to in a really good way. So like when I see this, I know what kind of story I'm signing up for.
That's something I didn't realize, and
Yeah. So what do you think that they could elevate in their comics a bit? So I'm gonna switch over to the other one, Red Muscle.
Okay, and that's something I'm actually working on my own comics, and that's why I'm very very much aware of it. I would be a little bit more playful with the layouts in the sense of camera position and trying out more eloquent perspectives, because sometimes it feels a little bit flat, you know.
And especially for me, I was thinking in the same way when I was looking at it, but I'm also thinking of books that I'm aware of that have similar styles. Like, you know, they're not doing crazy panels, they're not doing very actiony stuff, but they're geared more towards younger readers who
that works.
eye isn't used to reading comics as much. But if you're aiming towards an older audience, you can trust them to kind of keep up in a certain way. The reason I say you could play around with panels more is for a gag comic. It's okay if you can do it, but at some time, like it might get boring.
Yeah. And also, like, for example, they have too much of the same, I don't know what's the correct word for that, but I say camera angles for the characters. So
yeah, I agree
I would play around a little bit more with close-ups, like really, really close shots of the character, and then like create this contrast with wide shots and close-ups, you know.
For me, I keep thinking of like on TikTok and old Vines and stuff, when people wanted to make a joke, they would zoom in really hard and really fast on people's faces, and that would be like, it doesn't matter what it is, that's hilarious. That's hilarious to everybody.
That works dramatically and for humor too, so for comedy.
It's kind of funny how like the same tricks that you have to make a situation more intense dramatically works really, really well for comedy. I feel like to study one is to know the other.
Yeah.
So there's some, again, I like to say that the character acting is really, really interesting. Like the faces, the squinty eyes, like going between like big old pupils and just like the dot eyes, like that's clever, but it could be pushed further.
The play with sound effects I also appreciate, because that's something that I don't do, and I think it's really fun.
Oh, you don't do sound effects?
No, I don't like it. What? Like I don't play a lot of them. Like it's not my thing.
I feel like I used to be in that boat, but I feel like I've seen it done so successfully that it becomes part of the illustration.
Makes sense.
Who does it really well? Daniel Warren Johnson. Do I have his comic on my desk? I think so. Hold up 1 second. So he is just a master of the most outrageous action. And I know that's not related to comics. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let me switch to the other view. Okay, so do you see his sound effects here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like always integrated really nicely
with the rest of the art,
with the rest of the art. Yeah, it's just really fun punches of energy, and it just makes the whole page just look fantastic.
I gotta check that out. I love it.
Yeah, he's some of the best artists out there. So the book is called Extremity, and it's written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. The guy's a genius. So let me go back to here. So even though I feel like the sound effects are doing their job there, I feel like it could be pushed. Yeah. So I think, is there anything else you want to add to this person's portfolio?
No.
All good?
I think that's it.
Word.
All good.
Hey, okay. So let me close that so that we can see your face again. Okay, here we go. it's like so fascinating to go through people's work and
I
like
know,
actually
right?
get
I
to
love it.
dissect it. Like for me, I genuinely, I get so much fun out of it. It's something I really missed from being in art school.
I love it. I love it. Like I did that for the first time on Chicago Comic Con a
Hmm.
couple of months ago, and it was a lot of fun. Like,
For me, I feel like it also forces you to flex kind of your creative muscles in a way that you don't normally to, and analyze work not to
you're so used to
change it.
see and judge your own work, right?
Hmm. Like if you don't know how to look at different work, you're gonna have a lot of trouble like dissecting your own stuff and even like improving and knowing how to look at other people's work to improve your own.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like I love it. I love it so much, and for me, I feel like it's something that a lot of people want and don't know how to ask for. Like if you're, I know that you do it at conventions. How do people normally approach you to do this kind of stuff,
Um,
or how do you
like
wish they would approach you?
the way that people approached me on Chicago was really respectful. They were they came when there was not a lot of traffic on my table,
Hmm.
or if there was a lot of people there, I asked them to come back later, and they did, and that's the best scenario possible, I
Oh, that's
think.
so good. So it's
So
like
depending on the convention, that's not even possible. So let's say New York Comic Con or CCXP in Brazil, which are like busy as hell.
mhm.
There's no available time to do that. It's unfortunate, but that's the hard truth.
Yeah.
But smaller shows, that's totally possible, and I really like to do it.
So it's like you go up to a person, and I feel like that's what a lot of people don't realize. You can simply ask for it, and the
Ask,
worst thing they can say is, "I'm sorry, I'm busy," or like
yeah,
you can kind of read the room and be like, "Okay, they clearly have a long line of people to their table, or you know they're eating right now, they're worn out, they want to take a break, so I'm gonna come back later." Hmm.
that's exactly it.
I've met actually some people like I saw them as a sort of like art idols, and then what are you drinking?
Water.
That's a whole. What was I even saying? That's a whole tub.
Yeah, that's my day amount of water. So.
Artist secrets. Piccolo is hydrated as fuck.
Ah!
What was I saying? I was so ridiculous.
um, you were thinking about
Yeah,
people that
there was
inspire.
people who a couple years back, and I was still in art school, and I wasn't really online much. I wasn't really established online, and I would just like start random chats with them, and have them like look at my work, and it was those kind of conversations that ended up leading to mentorships and then like full on friendships. So. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't realize you can just talk to artists. It's
Just approach
not a
them. It's
big
not that
deal.
hard. Yeah.
No one's intimidating. Half the artists that I know are like shy ass nerds. Like if they seem standoffish, it's because they're more freaked out of you. It's like a bug. They're more scared of you than you are of them. It's the law of nature. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions you want to toss at us, now is probably the best time. Everyone's making fun of you for
Yeah.
Is it possible to go
It just
for a
takes a
critique
whole
online?
ass bottle out of nowhere, so
I
it's
would
okay.
say for the critique online, it depends. The way that I tell people, first of all, one, I don't check my DMs because I get like a bajillion DMs every day, and so I can't dig through it. But if you email me and you have very specific questions on where you want to go professionally, what you want to improve on, and even specific works that you want me to look at, I'll be happy to give you feedback if you email me. Beginner artist. Oh no, the chat went away too fast. What did they say? Beginner artist that what?
What?
There's something in the chat that was a question. My email is in my Twitter bio. So if you go to my Twitter, which should be in one of the panels underneath the Twitch stream, you should find it there. I don't have a ton of time, so try to be as specific as possible if you do reach out to email me. Do you guys
So
have any artists, beginner artists that want to make transition to intermediate artists? Oh, okay. So how do you go from a beginner to an intermediate?
I think it's
How do you
about,
define beginner and intermediate?
yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Like there's no formal way of saying like which is which, but
Picolo, do you consider yourself beginner, intermediate, expert?
intermediate
And
definitely.
I feel like I don't think I know any artist personally who call themselves an expert artist.
Yeah,
There's like 3 people in the world, in my opinion, who deserve expert artist title, and one of them is like Kim Jung-ji.
I was thinking the same name. Okay, yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Who else? The Nathan Fox Art. He's a brilliant mastermind. The guy who did he does like these dinosaur painting books. He's brilliant. Anyways,
Corey Love from Disney.
Yeah.
Corey from Disney.
Those guys are experts. We don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah. We're just trying to make stuff happen, make stuff work.
We're doing our goddamn best here.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say going from beginner to intermediate is more of a mental block. Just keep learning and keep accepting that you're going to be a beginner in some things and intermediate somewhere else. And keep recognizing
Like
your strengths.
now you know how to draw like this amount of stuff, and then give it a couple of months or years, you're gonna know how to draw this amount of stuff, and then this amount of stuff, and it keeps growing. Like it never stops.
No one's an expert at everything.
What?
You can give yourself foundation, like the foundational tools, so that no matter what problem there is, you know how to try to figure out and solve it. So give yourself the tools to learn. So that is going to look like, basic drawing exercises, getting used to thinking things in 3D shapes, like those basic techniques. And from there, it actually becomes more about concepts, and it becomes more about ideas, and you stop worrying about how to draw and you start worrying more about what to draw.
That's really good. That's a quote.
Made up that shit right now. That's why we're here. What else we got?
The place where you live influences in your work, like small city.
Yes.
I live in a small city in the south of Brazil. I wanna approach that because I live in a big city in Brazil, in São Paulo, like the biggest one in Brazil, and it doesn't make a difference because all of my clients are always either American or European. So no, it doesn't make a really big difference because today we have internet, so people just want to know if you can do stuff, if you can communicate. It doesn't have to be some extreme level of English. You just have to like understand what you're asking for.
The concept, yeah.
Exactly. You don't even have to explain what you're drawing. You just have to draw and understand what you're seeing. So that's pretty much
I would even explicitly say you don't need to explain what you're drawing, because if you're stuck explaining what you're drawing, you're not doing your job.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Because your job is to communicate visually. So that's why it works so well. Yeah.
No, yeah.
So long as you're answering your emails at somewhat of a good time, you'll be fine.
And that's it. And that's because I'm saying, like, if you want to work with international clients, if you want to work with Brazilian clients, no, they don't want you to, like, they don't require you to live next to them. Of course, if you're thinking about like something like animation, yes, then you will need to work at the studio. But I think that's the only exception I can think of.
So someone just posted a question about simple but detailed styles, how to have simple styles that don't seem childlike. And I think the first thing I want to tackle in that question is the vocabulary. You may see it's simple, but what you're really describing is that they're focusing on shape and color and big compositions and not trying to pack it with details. There's a difference between having a simple style and having like an amateur underdeveloped look to your illustration.
Making stuff look simple actually takes a real effort and a real time to get done.
The people who, like, I'm so impressed by animators. I'm so impressed by people who work in that really strong geometric style, because that's the other thing. They're not simple. They're more focused on shape and color and less on rendering. So
Mhm.
understand that the decisions they're making are going to be different from the decisions you're going to be making when you're making like a hyper realistic drawing or a painted drawing. What they're focusing on is telling the story as quickly as possible and using big dynamic shapes. And
Eloquently, I would say, like as eloquently as possible too, because the shapes help like tell the what the image is doing. Like,
so focus less on the fact that you're looking at a drawing of, you know, a girl riding a horse, and understand that you're actually looking at a drawing of a circle and a cylinder and a big blotch of brown and a big, like, you have to break it down to the most basic pieces.
there's a good one. How do you make friends in the artist community? I don't have anyone to learn from with, and I never get critiques since none of my friends are artists.
Yeah, that is a solid one.
I think you can answer that better than me because you're really good at like making a community.
Thank you. Yeah, so do what I did with Piccolo, where I looked at him and I decided I'm gonna be your fucking best friend. And commit, put that energy out into the world, and then trick him into thinking it was his idea. No, but for real, you just have to put yourself in spaces where artists are already. And with Twitter and with Tumblr and Instagram, well, I feel like Instagram less. I don't know anyone who makes friends on Instagram. Instagram is so that you can window shop other people's lives. But on Twitter, what's really fantastic about it is that people are all in the same space. And you can just reply to them and be nice and give compliments. Give everybody compliments. Everybody loves a good compliment. And not a creepy compliment, a good compliment. Be like, you're doing a great job. You're my hero. You're doing fantastic. Don't be like, I'd love to be your best friend someday. It would be so cool to hang out. God. Yeah, none of that. Just be like a person. Yeah, be nice, respond to people's work, show enthusiasm, and people will take notice and they'll reciprocate. And next thing you know, you're hanging out. Oh, also, like, try to go to conventions and the same thing. Put yourself in the right spaces. So you're not going to find artists if you're hanging out in your university where you're a psych major, like I was. You're not going to find artists if you're showing up to, you know, events that include scientists and include mathematicians. Like, just put yourself in the right space.
Okay, that's a really good one. Out of the two websites, which is better for art, Twitter or Instagram? Ooh,
depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay, so I have a pretty large audience on Instagram, and I think the best that comes out of Instagram in terms of work, like Instagram is way easier to get people to see you. I think it's way easier because if you notice, I know that there's the algorithm and all that bullcrap, but if you notice, people usually have like a ton of followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Twitter, I feel like it's a little bit more complicated to get a following because people are signing up not only for the art, but for the shit posting, the ideas, the talking.
And that's why it's easier to make friends on there too. So it's a double-edged sword.
So I would say that Instagram gets you like a crowd of people, and Twitter gets you like a smaller group, but that group is like really, really, really passionate and interested in what you're showing, what you're saying. That's good difference about the two. Not saying one is better than the other, but they are like two different type of followings.
For me personally, Twitter gave me connections and gave me job opportunities. It's how my publisher noticed me. Yeah.
For me, it happened the same way for me, because especially because we are doing comics, so editors and writers and all these really good people are on Twitter, and they're not browsing Instagram as much. So, for example, I don't get many job offers from Instagram. If I get job offers from Instagram, it's usually like advertising stuff or like people buying my stories in a way. So it has a lot to do with my audience on Instagram. Much more about the audience and less about what I actually do, my work, etc.
You're gonna find a community on Twitter, but you'll find an audience on Instagram, I think, is the good conclusion to that.
Yeah. I like how you word that.
Yeah. There was a question a bit before. That was something about being a Muslim in industry. Could you scroll up and see it? Because I don't have the chat open.
What about what?
It's something about being Muslim in the industry. I just missed the question.
That's how I made.
Let me see here.
I can't find it. Sorry.
You can find it. Whoever posted that, feel free to post it. Okay. Notice any difference being a Muslim in the art industry? I'm Muslim too, just wanted to know any complications. Oh, so about that. Yeah, no. If anything, it's garnered more attention to me in a way that actually helps my work. Because there's not a lot of us out here. So when we do something, people tend to pay more attention, for better or for worse. Sometimes it could be for worse, sometimes it can, but overall, I'd probably say 98% of it is incredibly positive. So the incredible thing about working as an illustrator, tying back to what Picolo said before, is nobody cares where you live, nobody cares what you speak, nobody cares what your degree is. Most of my clients have never seen me before. So they know my work, they know my reputation as an artist, and that's what matters. So the only time people even realize that I'm a Muslim person in these spaces is, one, because I don't hide it, I'm pretty obnoxious about it, and two, because I will feature characters who represent a similar identity to me, and I do that pretty proudly because I feel like we don't get enough of it, which is why I have art like this behind me. So yeah, I would say own up to it. We need more people in our spaces because we need other people to not speak over us. So, so yeah, this is so wholesome. I'm so happy you guys are still up. We're reaching the 11 p.m. mark on Eastern time. So we're hitting midnight for you.
What? Sorry. Yeah, it's almost midnight for me.
Yeah. And everybody else who's staying up past 3 a.m. Artist alley tips for non-American artists coming to exhibit. So that's you.
For non-American artists.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough. That's really, really tough. Okay. Because that's a lot of trouble, because you don't want to bring a lot of prints, a lot of merch from your country, because it might get taken in the customs, and the American customs are really strict. That's what I found. Even though it's your own merch, it's your own work, they're probably going to say that you need a permit or something like that, and they won't let you sell your stuff. I've heard a lot of artists got stopped at the customs when they were going to Emerald City, and they couldn't sell. Yeah, because the customs took their merch.
Well, I hope they like comics. Shit.
I know.
Leave a review on Amazon, assholes.
it's very frustrating. So
wow,
I think the best way to get around this is going to whatever country you're going in, and have some spare days, having go some days before the actual convention, and then find out some place to print your stuff if it's easy. If it's not easy, if it's a book or actual merch, then yeah, bring it on your backpack. But just don't bring a lot of it, because if it's too much, they may get suspicious. If it's just prints, you can print stuff on the country that you're doing the convention. Let's say if it's America or anywhere in Europe. So
losing your stuff while shipping and going and traveling for conventions is actually the stuff of nightmares. Because I know people who, they did everything correct. They even shipped their stuff to the convention. It came in on time, and someone stole it from the Airbnb that they shipped it to. So there's a million ways where it could go wrong. Not to scare you or anything, but it's tricky business.
Yeah, just go with some days, with some free days, some days to spare, so you can look for places to print your prints, and maybe banner, because I printed my banner while I was in the US last time that I did in Rock City. So
someone said a little bit ago, someone posted in the chat a little bit ago, do you recommend art school? And I know a lot of people ask that, so I'm just going to answer it very quickly. Depends on the person. Don't go in debt if it's not accessible to you because you're international, or because you're not from a very rich family. Don't do it. It's not worth it. The end. So unless you feel, or like do it for like 2 years and then get out, because that's honestly like all you need. If you need to learn in a structured learning setting, go to art school. If you feel like you can teach yourself, don't. You'll be fine. Speaking from someone who's still paying student loan debts. Expensive and stressful. Everything's expensive and stressful though. What's the part of your creative process that you'd like to dedicate a little bit more time, and why? One of these days I'll learn anatomy. One of these days.
You're fine. Shut up.
I don't know any musculature, man. I could not draw a shirtless man to save my life.
I would like to be, and that's something I'm actually working on. Spend more time cleaning my stuff, like cleaning my final art. So, that's because I stopped. I skipped the strict inking part. That my stuff usually comes out all wonky, and I'm trying to get my stuff more clean.
I feel like for me, I get too bored rendering. I need to find a way to make it fun for myself, and it's not fun, and that's why I don't do it. Like, your art style is what you find fun and what you enjoy looking at, and those combine together. Because if you're going to be spending 12 hours on something, 10 hours on something, you gotta make it interesting, or else it's going to be a lot harder. Her first panel at a small convention in Brazil tomorrow. Any tips for her? Prepare. I would probably say it comes with any type of public speaking advice that I can give to a person, which is, if you're having fun on stage, people will reciprocate it. I think you kind of bring the energy, and the audience will return it. So one thing that I noticed is that I used to be very much scared, afraid of speaking in public back then, when I was, let's say, in high school or something. And I was invited to make like a panel back in, when I did a convention in Spain on Japan weekend, and I was way more comfortable than I thought that I would be, because that's why I knew what I was going to say. I knew what I was going to talk about. So I think that's the difference, So when you're invited to talk about it, to talk in a panel, people expect people know what to expect from you. Like, they know that you know what you're saying. So they have confidence in you. So you just need to pretend.
Yeah, you don't have to freak out. So I used to be very much scared of making public speeches, and I'm not anymore. So,
would you exhibit in any cons in the USA? I mean, yeah, I'm in the USA, and Picolo, you come through for NYCC, and you come through.
Yeah, like I have to go to the big ones in the US, because the overseas flight from Brazil is kind of expensive. So I have to be sure that I'm making the money back. But I like San Diego, New York Comic Con, and Emerald City, Chicago, all the big ones. I'm definitely going to go.
For me, I'm probably going to cut down on conventions this year, because I have the graphic novel to work on, and I think I want to travel for not to work for once. So we're gonna try.
I don't know how that feels like. I still didn't do that.
You gotta do it. You have to take a vacation.
Someday.
Someday. You're gonna keep saying someday until the end of time. So I think there was just a question about creative block, but it disappeared. Don't know where it went. I feel like so much of art comes down to, and the stuff surrounding being an illustrator just comes down to confidence. It's like the confidence to tell a client, like, yeah, you know what you're doing. And the confidence to tell people, like, enjoy my artwork, this is what I have to offer. And the confidence to go to a convention and sell your stuff there in person and talk to people who enjoy your work. I feel like cons are just confidence boosters. Maybe that's what it's short for. It's short for confidence. That's a stupid joke. I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
How did you decide to work in comics versus animation, picture books, etc.? I work more in publishing spaces. I'm currently developing actually a picture book. It works for me. I think it's ego. I don't want to work in animation because I don't want to slave over a project where I'm like one name.
I think about that a lot, okay? So yeah, you can
But
call
they
it.
also have healthcare and we don't, so who's the real loser?
But one thing is, I don't know, I like, I think you just nailed it. Like it's the animation
It's
is like too
ego.
much, a whole pipeline of people working on that stuff, and I don't know. I like to have a little bit of control.
That's the other thing. I definitely, it's two things. One, I definitely like working with people.
Uh-huh.
The type of industry I'm in is because I enjoy collaborating. I enjoy knowing that I'm with a writer and an editor and an agent and all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to work with that many people.
Yeah, that's pretty
I'm
much
not
it.
interested. And at the same time, I want to be like, I did this. Me, specifically. Nobody else. Well, not true. I owe so much of everything I'm doing. Like, I can list off 30 people right now who are like, I owe you my career. But I did it. How do you price your work? In what way? Commissions? Prints? Depends.
This is a little bit too abstract, Spencer.
You price yourself at whatever your client's willing to give you. So if they're like, I'll give you $1,000 for that, be like, I guess I do $1,000 for that. What a great suggestion. Or sometimes just be like, actually, I normally do this work for $1,500, even though you've never done the work before. Just lie. Sometimes you just lie. But it's also like half the reason why I have an agent, so he can lie on my behalf. No, he doesn't lie, but he bluffs. Yeah, there's no healthcare in this industry. We're all gonna die. Would you do a meet and greet? I mean, I'm at conventions, so that's, you meet me, you greet me. Pick one, meet or greet.
Yeah, like sometimes when I do travels, and that's really rare. Like this is a rare occasion when I do travels, and it's still for work, for business, but it's not for conventions. On these times, I do meet and greets, and it's pretty awesome. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, I would love to do like a sketching group up thing, like not a full-on panel, like just a chill day. I have to think about doing that. Yeah.
There was this time I went to New York. It was my first time in New York. I was recording a class for Skillshare, and I wasn't there doing anything else. So that was like, it was for business. They flew me there, but it was just that. So I picked a day and made like a small meet and greet. A lot of people showed up.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, but in a way, it was still like intimate. Like it wasn't like a crowd. It was a lot of people, like let's say 20, 25 people. But it was so nice. Like that was like a really good first experience of New York because of that.
That's so cool. Now let's definitely do that some other time. I'm still waiting on my New York Comic Con response, but if we get in, I want to try that someday. Someone mentioned before, how do you get an agent for your work? The best case scenario is actually to keep putting your work out on social media. I would suggest Twitter over Instagram for this thing. And honestly, your agent should find you. Some people take queries that, I don't know how to say that word, query, I don't know, Queries. But basically when you pitch yourself to an agent and you're like, this is like with the work that I do and all that stuff. Best case scenario is that someone who already has an agent refers you to theirs and be like, this is a cool person, so you should also hire them. I've done that for other artists. Other artists did it for me. That's how I ended up with mine. That's what you want to do, because your artist has to be like your number one fan. So if they find you first, they're going to be like super pumped to work with you.
Super agree with that. Yeah. That was how I worked with Guy when he was working as my agent. It's exactly how it happened. Like he was my friend before, then he found me, and then like he wanted to work as an agent for me. Like later on, like we were already friends when he decided that.
Yeah. So, I think that's the best way to go about it. It's a little bit chicken before the egg. You kind of just keep putting your work out there and send it out and pray for the best. And I got approached by a couple literary agents before I settled on mine, but I wasn't in a position where I even wanted one. Like I was still in school. I didn't want the pressure of producing that kind of work. I wasn't it wasn't for me yet. All right. So with that, do you want to wrap it up or do you want to keep going?
Now let's wrap it up because I gotta
Okay.
work.
You gotta work? No, you gotta go to sleep. Wrong answer.
It's gonna be
You
one
have
of
the
those
worst
nights.
sleeping habits. I'm on Ramadan time, and for us, like, we stay up till like sunrise. Well, we don't have to stay up, but we like prefer to stay up so that we eat something and then we fast the rest of the day. So for us, I'm gonna be up for a little bit longer to work. But yeah, stay hydrated, as people are suggesting in the chat.
I will. I have a lot of water with me.
At least, even though you're not sleeping, at least you're drinking water.
Yeah.
Isn't that a weird, like, I feel like it's a weird trend in self-care. Like, everyone's obsessed with self-care, but everybody just calls it drinking water. Yeah. So thank you so much for everybody who stayed up with us,
Thanks,
especially the
everyone.
folks out in, you know, Middle East, out in Europe, who stayed up to like 6 a.m. and things like that. You guys are the best. This was a ton of fun, and I look forward to doing probably more of these with different creative professionals later on. And I'm so glad for Picolo for kicking this off with us. It was actually his idea originally. He hit me up out of the blue, and he's like, "I want to do another live stream," and I was
And
like,
you can do that again whenever you want.
And he'll be back eventually. I'll bring him back. And we look forward to having you guys again. Please feel free to hit me up for portfolio reviews if you want on the other streams, and also through my email. And if you do, please keep it as straightforward as possible. I want to be able to give you feedback, but you have to tell me what you want. And yeah, thank you, and bye. Good night.